Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the TechnoSpace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and honored to welcome not one guest but two guests, Mr. Derrick Edward and Mr. Mikhael Afon, who are based out of Auckland, New Zealand. Now, Derrick and Mikhael, why don't you introduce yourselves to our audience?
100%, Gil. So my name is Derrick. I am the co-founder of Harnex AI, along with this gentleman over here. So, I'm Mikhael, also known as Misha Afon. So co-founded Harnex with Derrick. Both come from sort of different backgrounds. And yeah, we're here today.
That's brilliant. Now, if I now just would like to ask you this, Mikhael and Derrick. Now, before we, kick off this podcast session, I just wanted to understand, like, we have this cloning thing going on with respect to the winter. I mean, in Melbourne, the winter is pretty much, on a very high note. So just wanted to know, like, how is that in Auckland? Is that the same thing going on there as well?
It's pretty warm right now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. The sun is shining. I don't know, like right into my eye. I feel summerish despite of wearing the hoodie.
All right.
I think yeah, different environments.
Yeah.
Is it pretty cold for you in Australia right now, bro?
It's picking up really bad, every day it's like, overcast weather, then it's sunny. Yeah. The weather keeps on, they say that there's a myth here in Australia that they say that Melbourne experiences 4 seasons in one day. So yes, it
That's
completely
Auckland.
explains.
Yeah.
You should maybe come and visit. It's less extreme maybe here.
Awesome. So, all right. So, at the stroke of this hour, which is 2:06 p.m. Melbourne time, let's kick off with the podcast session. So, now coming to you, Mikhael. Now, Mikhael, can you just, what is your view about different AI mechanisms and which domain/industry do you think AI fits the best or suits the best?
Oh, it's a good question. Well, my view on AI is AI is a paradigm shift. It's a brand new sort of revolution that it's going to impact everyone and everywhere, right? In terms of which industry is going to be adopting it the most or the least, or the industries that's going to impact, I can't really answer that question. It's really hard, but what I can tell you is that there are some industries that are more prone to adopting it than others. Now, and let's just talk about like maybe industries that do adopt it. Amongst those, you're going to have various organizations. Some are going to be the leaders, some are going to be the laggards. But one thing for sure, from what I see, is those who actually adopt it sooner will be in much more we'll have a competitive advantage over everyone, right? So it's that sort of a technology that is somewhat risky at this stage. There's a lot of uncertainty, but also shows a whole lot of new possibilities.
Yeah.
Right. But one thing also to note from my point of view is, AI is it's a broad topic, right? Whereas like, for example, ChatGPT came out and all of a sudden it became accessible. So all of a sudden now everybody knows AI, everyone's an AI expert, fantastic, right? However, it came with a bit of a feel that, well, this generative AI is here and it's going to solve all our problems. We need to be mindful that despite that this new revolutionary technology is here, there are still some basic and more sort of like a simpler ways of actually adopting AI. So for example, machine learning is still within the domain of AI, yet it doesn't require you to get these expensive, hardwares or use those OpenAI.
Massive amount of data.
Yeah, mass amount of data. It's something that you can actually start doing today. You could have started doing it 5 years ago. So yeah, it's everyone should be looking into it. It is going to impact everyone, and we're in that era where it's going to change things quite drastically. I mean, like, what do you think, Derrick?
Yeah, every knowledge worker is going to be disrupted. And that's what we're seeing across our clients. We at Hanx AI, we're an AI agency helping businesses leverage the power of specifically generative AI, because it is unfathomable how much of a productivity gain you can get when you're completely rethinking your workflows with the this technology and the tools that are readily available. You don't even have to go and do some advanced solutionizing. Like you can just simply learn how to use ChatGPT effectively, and you can already augment 50% of your knowledge working role. And this is across software engineering. This is across any sort of like research or writing sort of heavy data analysts, data analytics, like anything you name it, knowledge work. If you deal with information as input and you output information, you are ripe for automation and augmentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That completely sums up the point, Mikhael and Derek. On behalf of Mikhael, also you just interpreted your points, which was really really handy. Now, Mikhael and Derek, if I would just like to ask us both of you, do you think such an AI mechanisms will fit the defense industry, or let's say the defense, like let's say the government industry, or even if it does, how well will that get integrated with?
Oh man, this is a tough topic because I think AI in defense is basically giving AI license to kill. And it's probably the most unethical use of AI that I could think of, second to, exploiting young kids for their attention for money, right? Like when it's all in the matter of defense, it's for the protection of a nation, and there's so many things that you can consider. Like it's basically we're going through another arms race to build the next nuclear bomb, but this nuclear bomb is autonomous drones and agents on the battlefield. And so it's
Yeah.
massive. I personally don't agree with it, but I know that it's inevitable because companies like Palantir and Anduril and all of these other things, they're investing heavy and their stock prices are going massive about it. Like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, in defense, it's I would agree with Derek's point. But if we're looking at the whole spectrum, right? Like you actually mentioned government. Government will be adopting it. Actually, as a matter of fact, in New Zealand, they're already starting to do some things. At the end of the day, in my opinion, if you adopt the technology, the government adopts the technology, the key thing for me is going to be, well, first of all, how is it going to serve me better because I'm the taxpayer, I'm paying for it, right? And probably the second thing is like how secure it's going to be, right? Like last thing we know that, government holds a whole lot of data, right? And if you put your trust into systems like AI, the key thing that you need to really establish is like security, the government's like good practices on how to use these sort of tools, right? We all heard about ChatGPT being jailbroken, various hacks happening, maybe like 6 months ago, a year ago, and the company is constantly evolving. They're trying to ensure that the system is going to be jailbreak, foolproof. Yet people still finding way of how to bypass it. So
Security is massive, right?
Yeah.
And with these AI systems. So governments that are taking it on, I understand if they're slow to take it on because you have to go through a lot of compliance and regulatory, especially when the data you deal with is your security number or your your passport, your everything about you that confirms you as a citizen of your country. Like when you're dealing with that data, take as much time as you need.
but also another good thing is like if they going to be adopting this technology rather rapidly, like with AI, the quality of the output is going to depend on the quality of the input, right?
Yeah.
So if they actually can generate quality outputs that's serves the benefit, man, that just means they're actually starting to get their things together, right? Means their data is organized. I will actually have maybe like a little bit more trust in it because that means like they probably figure out how to also be more organized about their security. Maybe a bit naive.
Unless you become like Elon Musk and basically have a startup in the government, which is the Doge Department of Government Efficiency.
Then you have to become the best friends with like prime ministers and stuff.
Yeah, don't there's a fine line, right? If you use AI in a capitalistic way, like we're seeing Elon Musk use, then you almost deteriorate democracy because you're stopping institutions, you're getting into very gray areas where can a citizen operate at this level with this complexity, you know? But if you go through the proper hoops and regulations, I'm sure it can be done correctly.
But in order for that to happen, the first step to do is people just need to be educated. And at the end of the day, the core thing, that's actually why how Harnex initially came about is like, let's just share our knowledge and educate organizations. Like the same thing, right? Like, so how do we empower and how do we educate people to ensure that they know what they're working with, understanding like how these tools work, how they can be used for the good, for the bad, and
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That completely answers the point. Now, heading on to you, Derek. So, Derek, tell me about your journey at transitioning all the way from platform engineering into the AI solutions.
100%. I think I'm grateful that I had the experience that I did before AI. Being in the technology space is awesome. Like what a ride being just in the digital space. The leverage of software is so incredible. Like the ability to create or transform your environment through software is massive. And like learning that skill set when I was young, when I was in uni, and moving on and developing as a platform engineer in my last role at Air New Zealand was all great, like all great experience. But I think as soon as AI came, I knew this was the once in a generational change that was happening. And even my role that I spent 5 to 7 years learning the engineering, learning the programming was very easily automated and augmented with generative AI. And that was a huge eye opener to me. Like when AI was effectively writing better code or faster code than I did. Maybe not so much the judgment of AI, but like just the raw production of it was massive. And then I soon realized, okay, there's certain skill sets from a developer that developers don't need. And you kind of have to like switch and adopt these new workflows. And so that was like almost like a fear that many developers would have, like, oh, AI is going to take my job. I don't want to use it because I'm going to be scared about it. In fact, I leaned into it and I was like, let's create an agency that helps people get onboarded with this. Let's like also show them what it's not good at to give them the confidence that it's never about automation. It's always augmentation of the developer. And I strongly believe, and Misha also believes the same, a developer's experience will only be 10x with AI. You know, like the real winners of the generative AI revolution are strong developers because that's it, you know?
Well, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna slowly switch roles. Well, okay, I actually really like this point, right? It's really going to empower those like um highly skilled engineers. So what about like the people that are coming out of university these days, like these kids finishing uni and they're just thinking like, oh shit, I need a job, give me a job, and they're like, oh, they just we've got AI who can do this shit.
It's a good question. I love how he's become the podcast host now, Uncle. He's asking me a question. But I think to answer his point, I don't know. Like it's very hard to understand what are the future roles going to be like for the alpha and beta generation, especially with generative AI. And I think learning the fundamentals of critical thinking is most important. And
Right.
learning programming is a form of practicing problem solving and critical thinking. You can do it in other ways. Play chess or like engage in debates or like really criticize certain things here and there. That's how you build judgment, right?
That's literally what you do all the time.
Yeah. So if you have that, yeah, exactly. That's why he gets annoyed with me. If you have that, and then you'll become a good orchestrator of agents because when AI makes decisions for you, then you can like have judgment on it. I think that's the key. So yeah,
totally.
That totally explains the point, Derek. Now, Derek, since we were talking about platform engineering and AI, so what are the key differentiating factors, or let's say key differences that you find between both these roles?
AI. Well, in terms of generative AI, it's just a prediction machine. code follows a very similar pattern and syntax. So it is literally one for one in terms of you can predict really good syntax as a software engineer. And so platform engineering, when you're dealing with cloud and more infrastructure as code type stuff, then it's less highly trained, and you might need more like experience or maybe more web searching capability with your AI to uncover all the latest things that are coming out. But like honestly, they're overlapping so much to the point that I almost believe some of these AI leaders that say all software is going to be all automated and augmented in 5 years' time. And
Yep.
sometimes I'm like, oh, you're just all sales and marketing, crap, right? But then I
Right,
actually
right.
realize when I
Mhm.
experience it day to day, oh wow, like 25% of code is generated with Google, 30% of code is already
Mm.
generated with Microsoft. And Anthropic are now saying like 90% of code is going to be generated in 5 years. And it's like more and more believable as it's
Mm.
becoming more capable. Yeah.
Really, that's brilliant, Derek. Now, so Mikhail just would like to understand, like, why do you think it is important to integrate AI with different niche technologies in the market?
With different niche technologies in the market.
Like focusing on specific verticals, eh?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
See, I have my walking dictionary right here.
I'm trying to understand what it means to be niche. Like maybe it's different people, right?
The technology in itself is, although the field of AI, in my opinion, is, well, sorry, no, AI field has been in existence since, the Turing, like since the computers started getting built, right? The field of generative AI in its core is relatively new for the public and is yet to be fully explored. Now, a question I would first ask is of anyone is like, can you fully trust this technology? And if you deal with it, from time to time, for most cases, people would say no. Like I wouldn't 100% trust it, right? So I'm a strong believer of still having a human in the loop, right? So trust but verify kind of approach. But imagine if you have a tool that is prone to error, like humans, right? We're prone to error, right? Because at the end of the day, what it's doing is just predicting the next token, as Derek said earlier. And imagine you just like roll it out across a whole lot of spectrums all at once, horizontally, trying to solve this one massive problem. Can you just imagine what sort of a negative impact it's going to generate on the wider audience?
Mass
It's just going to
disruption.
be insane. Like, for example, Google is a perfect example for it. As much as I love them for creating like these amazing products like Notebook LM and the recent thing, the generative search and Gemini 2.5 Pro, just remember when they came out with their generative like image generation, right?
Yep.
Like
The original one, yeah.
yeah, the ethics, and the whole cultural aspect of it just went through the bomb. People just went absolutely bonkers over it, saying like, "What do you think you're doing? This is just so inappropriate." There were no guardrails, right? I mean,
Well, they over guardrailed on diversity, and then
they
they
all,
started generating black Nazis and
yeah,
like
Okay.
diverse figures that never existed in certain times.
yeah, exactly. And like you ask for a historical figure, well, and then they over-engineered it again, and you ask for a historical figure, and they'd be like, "Oh, no, this guy's bad." So it creates a whole lot of negative um, experiences around it. And then the skepticism grows, right? So this technology all of a sudden becomes so popular, hits the wall. All of a sudden, people are skeptics and just not even choosing to adopt it. We go down the curve. It's literally just becomes a roller coaster ride. A slow niche rollout is essentially a way to actually build trust. Solve a problem, build trust, ensure that it is secure because you are putting your information, you're putting your data in hands of AI. And we've all seen, Terminator 2, or like any, as a matter of fact, any Terminator, like you don't really want to screw this up. Like I don't want, T-800 coming after me, or I don't know, me taking a shower and T-1000 sort of like slowly swimming through the pipe and just like I don't want that stuff. I really don't want that. So it's important that things are rolled out. I believe in innovation. I believe in being agile about it. So building things quickly and adopting it, but it needs to be done safely.
Right. If you really don't want T1s or T2s rolling up, you better go and petition the government to stop creating AI drones and AI robots, because that's where it's really gonna happen.
Yeah. Okay, maybe not that soon, right? Like I'll accept the fate, but just maybe like give me a couple more decades of of struggling and of running a startup.
I mean, like, like a very niche example of generative AI that also is coinciding well is like open banking, which is now a massive new, like, you know, uh, a capability where banks have to actually, democratize their data. And now to include like like a startup when open banking with AI.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
like you love your digits example. Now, like, imagine, imagine that,
It
right?
could potentially be, it could be a grand success. It could be a ticking bomb.
So it could be.
Yeah.
That's a niche way, or yeah.
Mm.
So, Derek, since you just mentioned about open banking, do you think open banking route is a safe move?
Oh my gosh, I'm getting tested in areas that I have little experience in, but I'll try my best. So with open banking, 100%, it's better that if banks democratize their data, because and they're also very slow and not ripe for competition, right? And so when you've got like various different methods for whatever reason, bureaucratic to protect the money and their environment, but like, and this is my personal opinion and not based on any fact. I've just seen, quarter on quarter of these banks release their profits, right? Even in really terrible times, and they're making absolute gazillions of money, right? And it's just like, how are you making so much? Well, it's because everyone is just putting money into your system and have no other choice. Open banking now allows startups to manage and like effectively leverage that. And so banks are going to get more competitive. I think like there still has to be a lot of regulation and make sure important, especially with the synergy of AI. I can imagine like if you were, chuck in your financial details on AI, generative AI system, and it goes and tries to do some autonomous work. And then next thing you know, you bought some sort of a, weird thing in a different country, or like, I don't know, you could be implicated for identity fraud. I have no idea like the implications of that. So got to be careful. But yeah, this is my opinion. Like, go talk to an open banking expert.
Yeah. I mean, do you think open banking is bad? Like, take a look at the Visa.
Yeah.
And these guys are extras.
Yeah. Like how many trillions of dollars of debt? Yeah.
Insane.
Probably, Derek, you just have given me a hint for my next podcast episode. Probably next, it has to be with an open banking expert. Let's see.
Yeah.
How does that fare up?
Get them on.
Awesome. So now, Derek, on a philosophical note, tell me about this. Like, how scary do you find, or let's say, what are the risks? Do you see any risky proposition attached of, venturing into a startup company? And having said that, do you think that affects your work-life balance?
The ethics of running a startup company and the work-life balance. Is that what I've understood, Uncle?
Yep.
The question? Okay.
Absolutely.
So ethics-wise,
do you feel like a dick starting a startup?
Yeah, to summarize it even more. So I think when it comes to being an AI startup, there has to be a lot of like ethical considerations, right? Like we're dealing with a lot of client data, we're dealing with a lot of emerging technologies, and so we have to like fundamentally balance how do we move fast, how do we like adopt all of these features and integrations and platforms and tools, while also being cognizant that there's a lot of cybersecurity risk. Like if we tell a client to adopt a tool, what is the privacy, what are the ways it can be exploited, if a data breach happens, what is that, these are all things that I just haven't experienced yet, or we haven't, because
I hope never will.
no, hope never will. But with the things with cybersecurity, it's only a matter of time, not when, not if, it's a matter of when. So ethics is important. I think like you have to have some level of morality, some level of governance going, but like not so much that you become a fat bureaucratic enterprise that doesn't get
Mm.
anything done, right? You got to have some level of of balance here, and I think we're doing it well. We're managing things and we're making sure, hey, we think this is probably not fit for this purpose, so let's do it in more traditional ways or human ways, and then no, AI can definitely take over with this. And in terms of work-life balance, there's no such thing when you run a startup, Uncle. In fact, that's why you should do a startup when you're young, because
Right.
work-life balance, we love it. I love working hard. I love working the long days. I love working weekends
I
because I know I'm building something great, you know?
exactly.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
I know the financial freedom, the work-life balance, it will come later. And maybe for those critics out there, be like, you can't guarantee tomorrow. You could die tomorrow on a e-scooter accident or something because I ride e-scooters around the city. Sure, but like I'm loving my life right now, and right now I don't need work-life balance because I got time, I got energy. And I don't have resources, so I'm going to build those resources being money. So yeah.
Yeah, totally.
What about
No,
yours on the philosophy of how we're running our startup?
I think to be honest, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but for me personally, and one of the reasons I personally wanted to do it is because, well,
You have
you
another startup.
we'll talk about
Oh
it
yeah,
later.
sorry.
But
Yes, that's gonna come up.
but essentially it's like I want to be in control of my life
Yes.
in that sense, right? I want to create my own destiny. But throughout my life, I was also always curious about, doing things, creating, innovating. And I thought, given today and how everything is around us is changing, I just thought, if I'm not going to do it now, I probably will never do it, and I'm going to live a life full of regrets.
Yeah.
Hmm.
My philosophy on it, you know, I would much rather try and fail
They never tried
than never try and just live with the regrets for the rest of my life.
the
Agree.
deathbed test.
Yeah, the death, but oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
Good.
makes
So
sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, Derek, when you ventured into this AI startup, firstly, did you find it scary?
To be fair, scary is a mindset that I really never had because I psychologically primed myself exactly what Misha said. I'd rather be failed entrepreneur than one that never tried. And so the fear never came from doing the startup. The fear came from, am I doing the right like thing within the startup? Because when you do a startup, there's a million different things that you
Mm.
can do, right? There's so many different routes that you can take. And I think the biggest fear that I have personally is there's this once in a transformational, like once in a generation transformational vehicle, which is generative AI. And are we doing the right thing by putting the efforts in this particular area when there's a much greater scalable opportunity there? I think that's the fear, but that's part of the startup life, like it's the what is the priorities, but never fearful of starting the thing. It's more like, am I missing an opportunity?
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good to know, Derek. Now, Mikhail, off to you. Now, Mikhail, now tell me about your passion about creating these high impact AI solutions that are tailored specifically for these, for the client needs encompassing education, ideation, and implementation services. So, what's your overview about that?
What's
Like the
this?
educate, how do you educate clients and
Yeah.
mentor them and help them through?
Um, well, for me,
What's the formula?
what's the formula?
What's
I
the
mean,
formula?
like, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's a right question. Yes.
yeah.
So I think, okay, I guess the formula and also apply, I'm presume applies to Derek, right? Like, what's the key ingredient? For us, the key ingredient is probably like the passion, right? So we're really
Yep.
passionate about the technology. Because of my background, so I'm not a developer. My background is more from analytical, product, and transformation side of things. So for me, I was always about, instead of developing, like actually coding, technology. I was more about, problem solving and applying technology. How can the technology can solve, or finding the technology that can be applied to a problem. And for me, like the winning formula in the whole process is essentially, identifying these problems, right? So working with organizations, it's always interesting to see that you always have they can always articulate these surface level problems, right? Something that's like really obvious. Um, for for me, what's really interesting is once you start having a conversation and start digging deeper, you realize that at the core, there's a whole lot of opportunity that can be uncovered, right? And I'm saying opportunity because a whole lot of things can be working and they could be working well, but improving these things and changing these things can actually drive even a further, like a further progress. So once it comes to the, like uncovering the problems, it's really great to be able to communicate these and do it in such a way that you actually not necessarily also like propose a solution, but also like educate the customers. Like there's a lot of things, like especially when applying to AI, right? Because sometimes they might not even be aware of what this technology is capable of, or as a matter of fact, sometimes the problem they might have is actually they're not realizing could be like the root cause of something else. So it's I guess like that's like the recipe is always about like having that passion to actually dig deep, build that connection, build that relationship, understand the business, and actually see how the AI can potentially like benefit.
And there's also a pattern that we've noticed within this formula is leaders that are visionaries that adopt AI wholeheartedly and realize that, okay, we need to change the mindset, are the ones that really succeed through education, mentoring, and guidance, because then you're not dealing with a leader that is like, oh, I need ROI on this quarter immediately. And if you don't give me this, then I'm not going to invest in it. I'm like, cool, like it's going to get worse before it starts accelerating. And your competitors that invest in it are going to actually, kill it.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I've seen both sides of the story of the coin. One where you have leaders who just adopting the AI for sake of driving the productivity and things like that, but not really providing any foundation to their
No
colleagues,
training.
no training, nothing, hoping that it's going to change their world, was boasting about like how great they are, but like as a matter of fact, nothing is happening because people just don't know what to do with it. They're just being given tools, and unfortunately, and I've seen like
It's almost like they need to meet a quota for the board, or like, are you doing AI? Yeah, of course.
and then
I'm doing it.
the tools are not being used, and all of a sudden gets taken away. So, we haven't found it to be productive. Versus those we work with sometimes that actually set the productivity and efficiencies to they set them as a B grade metric, and and instead focus on the actual change of the mindset. So how do they shift people's way of thinking, right, and actually augment them as individuals? So make them wanting to use the tool, like getting them to learn about them, and essentially read the benefit of the human and the technology.
Because they know that individual will be 2x, 3x on all of the metrics if they have that level of thinking.
We have we have one client at the moment, and there are some exceptional individuals literally just after 2 weeks
adopting.
We're just amazed on the progress. The idea was never about, hey, make sure you become more productive. Things, as they say, might sometimes get worse before they get better. And the great thing, and that's where I won't mention the organization, confidentiality. But what I was amazed with, their leadership actually accepted the fact that, hey, listen, it might get just a bit worse before it gets better, and we're okay with it. Hey, sure, some customers might get pissed, but you know what? We're doing it for, we're building for the future.
Hence the visionary leaders.
Exactly. And then it's essentially, it's the leadership. It's the leadership that has a vision as opposed to just like wanting to drive those KPIs, which in my opinion is a formula for a fail, to be honest.
So to summarize, be a visionary leader that adopts AI, because if you don't, you're going to be outcompeted. invest in training, because that is how you're going to leverage the existing workforce to get AI accelerated. Mentor them, because it's not just one workshop. You have to actually guide them and think about rethinking workflows. And then, once you've optimized for that, then you can probably start building.
So the way I would probably say it is like invest in people
Yes.
and support them.
Yeah. Which is the training part, right?
Yeah.
Professional development. Yeah.
Totally explains the point. Now, Mikhail, if I would just like to ask you this, like, let's say you have a client and he's using the legacy system and he has to, transition all the way to the AI. Now, what are the key steps that you will try to, convince him in such a thing? Because he's like completely comfortable with the legacy system. So with respect to AI, what are the things that you would like to, loop him with?
So if they want to change to AI, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they want to change to AI. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm probably not going to start by convincing them. First, it's about understanding what's the driver. It's for me, it's always, and like for us at Hanx, like for us, it's always important to understand what's your why, like what's actually the core reason why you want to adopt this, right? The reason must be right, chasing the hype may be quite dangerous and can create quite a lot of negative experiences. First is understanding the why. But then there's also understanding, what would you like to achieve? Like, so it's incredibly important to actually have some form of like direction, right? It's almost like with a cross country, like running, right, or like marathon running. If somebody puts you on the starting line and tells you, just run to the finish line without telling you where the finish line is, you'll be running forever, right? It's always important to have the goal and strive towards it, right? So it's about understanding the objectives. It's about understanding their why.
Yeah, because each transitioning from legacy to AI could be a multitude of million different reasons, right? It's hard to generalize. One could be the next license is $1 million and I need to like get off this, or the other could be,
Exactly. And before you even transition to AI or even start using the technology, you just need to ensure that whether you actually got all the right foundations.
Yeah, sometimes AI is not even the right solution, right? If it's really legacy and it's doing like some old technology type stuff, right? You're on mainframes or whatever is your infrastructure. Maybe you just need to go to a more modern tech stack to begin with. That isn't AI, It's just start with there, and then you can think about when you've got your data strategy sorted, then you can go to more AI.
Yeah, exactly. Like say, have you got like before you put like, let's just think AI as like, all the electronics inside your house. But before you even build a house, you have to pour the concrete, you need to set the foundation, you need to build a frame, you need to stick the walls, some insulation, and then eventually, you start, putting together, putting in like all these like smart appliances, smart, power plugs, but it's iterative process.
Yeah.
It is. That's for sure. Now, if I would just like to, ask a question to both of you, I just wanted to understand and I just wanted to know your view, let's say your take on, these different AI trends, like it could be vibe coding and, the AI friendship slash therapy. So just wanted to understand from both of you, like what is that hype, that is, completely surrounding that?
All right. So do you want to I take vibe coding, you take therapy?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Vibe coding is a massive unlock in the sense that generative AI and as I mentioned before, coding is so automatable and augmentable that we have modern AI systems that are fully agentic, and where you can within one natural language prompt get it to go and do multiple file edits and create so much code and essentially build out these full-on applications. Yes, it is really powerful, but it is only powerful because of a certain scoped part of the application or whatever system you're developing, which is only the front end and essentially UI mocking, right? If you're really trying to vibe code full-on applications in terms of effective security and database and all the other crazy complex engineering that goes into, managing different APIs and all these integrations and collating them into a certain gateway. Like if you're doing that and then deploying safely for scale across the world, you can't vibe code that. And so any non-tech person that thinks that they can vibe code a full-on application and deploy it successfully is maybe too much of an optimist. I don't believe AI is that capable yet. But what it is capable
Yeah.
is fully mocking like prototypes and MVPs. And so now you get to a stage where if you're a really good developer and you have access to these tools, you could build instant prototype MVPs. Say a client comes to you with a certain idea, and you can literally build something in a few hours and go back to that client and say, this is your idea, but as a demo. And then they will be more incentivized
Whoa,
because
yeah.
they're experiencing the thing that they just talked about in a meeting 2 days ago because you vibe coded it to show them what it could look like. They invest heavily, and then you can actually spend the money and the time to build it successfully and effectively. And you need real engineering skills for that. And so that's the whole like idea of vibe coding. It is powerful. It is democratizing a lot of people to develop. But the real winners of vibe coding, and I stand by this, are engineers that already know what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones actually taking business requirements and putting it successfully into production code that makes money, right? Like at the end of the day, we're in a capitalistic world, right? So that's my take on vibe coding as a software developer. But yeah, AI therapy, that's a massive can of worms. So you can
yeah, that's
A different
the
trend.
big
Yeah.
can of worms. Just as a matter of fact, like even if we, just um, expand it a bit, like maybe take a broader approach, is just AI as a friend,
yeah.
right? I like the example that Derek always brings up is the ChatGPT was the top application that was used by the users, but do you know what was the second one? It was character AI, right? Where the average session, so the ChatGPT's average session was 15 minutes or something like that, right? Whereas like character AI, what are we sitting like 2 hours? So
Average is 2 hours.
2 hours. And character AI is essentially where you can build your friend, give them personality. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even have to be a human. You can do like a pillow.
You want to
you know,
talk to an orange with
yeah.
some, hey, I'm orange.
Oh, like the guy on YouTube, the orange on YouTube. Is that one?
If you want to do it, whatever.
Yeah.
Like talk to Jesus Christ, talk to
Mm.
Dr. Phil, Oprah Winfrey, whatever. Like there's characters for anything, right? Like
Yeah, and
it's wild.
yeah, and that's absolutely insane, right? And it's also kind of dangerous if you think about it, right? Because it sounds like people are more willing to talk to a machine that actually is going to give you all sorts of affirmation, as opposed to just, criticize you and tell you perhaps things that, you might not, or don't, and instead of like telling you things that you don't want to hear, like it just tells you like, hey, how great everything is and how great you are as a person. Like, for example, like you
Yeah.
tell AI is like, yeah, I just went and kicked the kitten, like AI is not going to be not going to tell you like, oh, you're a terrible person. They're probably like, you probably had your reasons, which is
Hence sycophancy, which is
yeah,
a big problem with AI systems, right? It'll
mm,
always affirm your actions even though you're completely morally in the wrong, which is yeah.
yeah. And even those tools, right? Like the generative AI specifically offers you pretty much the worldwide knowledge at your fingertips, similar to how search engines did. I did a bit of a research on some of these like aggregating platforms, and I'll let you guess what you think would be the top three aggregator platform, like well, top three use cases, so like the agents or like the assistants.
So yeah,
Oh, you would know that.
I well the thing is yeah, I think you told me there was the third one was a chef. So
That's
it
right.
was a personal
That's
chef.
right. Yeah.
People love to cook, they want to
Yeah.
create recipes.
Okay.
So one was that. The second one was so to my surprise, a AI girlfriend, which I thought it would be the first.
Not just any girlfriend. It was like a
Like
kinky, like something like, dirty, it's like it's R18 stuff.
cool. And then the first, which man, it gets me every time. But honestly, I understand that it's Tarot readers.
Exactly, tarot reading.
Tarot readers. Okay.
Honestly, what the hell?
Bro, you know they're going massive on TikTok. The tarot readers on TikTok get like hundreds of thousands, millions of views.
Exactly. You have this technology that can give you like all the knowledge in the world. Like you can unlock so many possibilities, and each
Get a tarot reader.
honestly, each to their own. But I honestly thought, I would at least expect maybe math tutors or
Yeah.
I don't know, like a
I fully expected AI girlfriend to be number one. The fact that tarot reader was,
yeah,
was number
I'm
one.
hoping humanity is different. But
That's
it's a
pretty
massive
bizarre.
thing, and it's something that needs to be, in my opinion, monitored closely, especially in the young children, right?
Yeah.
It's not, in my opinion, it's not the technology that
Mhm.
they should be handed over to kids that easily, especially those who easily influenced by others. And let's just
Oh
be
man, yeah.
and kids are kids, they can easily be
Influenced.
influenced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Especially like, when you're young, you try to fit in. So I was like, back when I was like not a teenager, but even younger, I tried to fit in. And honestly, I would just like fall for anything like dumb that people tell me, just so I can be part of the group, because we are social creatures.
So yeah, it is dangerous.
Yeah. So for this sort of situation like this should not be the tool that just
Give to kids.
Yeah, give to kids.
Especially for companionship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spend time with them, actually talk to them, like don't forget, AI is here, but also the other humans,
Other
so
people outside. Yeah.
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 Do you think like in films, whenever I mean, a film that is not to be shown to kids, there's a disclaimer. Do you think AI also, the people who are creating that AI also should keep a disclaimer before the kids, access that?
Yeah, it's a noble thing to do, but it's at the end of the day,
What's it gonna do?
the a disclaimer is just like, are you really not going to watch a R16 film when
Yeah.
you're 13 years old? You're still going to do it.
Yeah, it's like terms and conditions. When was the last time any of you read terms and conditions?
Yeah, it's the real thing is actually some sort of like regulation or ban, right? And that is, going into very interesting waters, because there's also adjacent bills like banning social media, which is becoming a huge thing in NZ and Australasia. I know your Australia government tried to spearhead that on finding out whether a person's age is, if they find out their particular age and then banning them from social media. But the only way you can validate if someone is of age is if you get the age of everyone. So then now it
Yeah.
goes into mass surveillance. But like, would you prefer mass surveillance, or would you prefer the younger generation being protected from the most algorithmic attention seeking, like messed up tool? It's like, what do you want?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, if you do have the certain, like, the right ways of actually registering for these sort of tools, right? And actually have a way where you can use, like kids modes in a way. So for example, Netflix, when you go, there's always an option for kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or like there's YouTube Kids. So something
So
like
the parents set that toggle, but like,
yeah, it's just like
Yeah,
you're only allowed like half an hour at most, or at least, if you want to spend more time, it has to be with a greater purpose than just like chatting to your virtual friend.
the problem with asking parents to do it is you assume that they are good parents, bro, which is actually a rarity. There's a lot of parents, and that's that are just not really good role models to these children, and you expect them to do good parenting and switch on the toggle to protect them from AI algorithms, you know?
That's a whole nother
Yeah.
like topic, but I think it's like, in that particular instance, would AI actually be
A benefit.
like
Yeah.
or further problem, right?
We never know.
Yeah.
It's only time will tell, Uncle.
That totally sums up the point. And yes, as I mean, Mikhail was just mentioning about, there should be a separate thing for having, AI kids, because it's like, Netflix kids or, YouTube kids. But yeah, it just will come with its own time, and then, things will take on from there. Yeah. Now, Mikhail, can you just share me your, personal insights and experiences of being a new father?
Staying on the topic of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the reference to
Yeah.
running another startup.
My second startup. Yeah.
Yeah, to be continued, and it started here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having kids, it's cool.
It's cool. Yeah,
No,
it's
but
so chill, so chill.
yeah, I love it. I love it. So it's just it's an experience that I've never had, right? So, and it's also a massive motivator, right? Like it's a massive driver for me because, you want to do right, by your family, make sure that we have everything, the kids are supported for the future, and it's that extra, like, fuel, like in the Fast and Furious movie, like you think, like, you know Toretto is losing, but next thing you know, he, like, pulls up something from another couch of his in the car, and there's like another booster there.
Family is
There's a family is everything, and you just keep going, right? Until you explode. Hopefully we don't get there, but it's phenomenal, right? It's a different paradigm. I actually had we had our kid just under a month after I left in New Zealand,
to run a startup.
to run a startup.
Yeah.
So, and it definitely sets things in perspective, right? And puts things in priority.
I think like a lot of people would think you're absolutely crazy, right? Like some people in their comfy full-time positions
Mm,
can't even manage having a kid, and they'll take sick leave, and they'll take, oh, I need to do this pickup and that
yeah,
pickup, and you're
yeah,
like, yo, I'm running a startup. Like
yeah,
things are not
yeah,
not like confirmed. I don't even know if the next contract is going to come through, and I
yeah,
have to work crazy hours. And how do you manage
yeah,
that?
yeah. Exactly. Well, I have to give well, first things first is that, like, at some stage you just think, like, well, it certainly can't get any worse, especially when it comes to, like, sleep deprivation. But, I think I'm very fortunate with my wife, who's been my supporter, and, she's there every step of the way. She's very, she's very understanding. And I think having the right person, having the right partner, if you
That's
do
the
have
key.
one,
Yeah.
it's the key. It's the key.
So it's the life partner that anchors
Mm.
and essentially
And friends,
increases
actually.
your success.
And actually, friends, I have to give a lot to some of my friends who
Mm,
helped us to
that's so
enable the
good.
Harnex. Like, literally, you know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, 100%. Like
Yeah,
we didn't actually fully get bootstrapped. We actually got some help with some other, founder friends and other people that are,
yeah,
good business mindset. So it's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one thing in New Zealand that I already found. There is a great community of founders and other business leaders who do believe in giving back, and we essentially are a startup that actually, like,
Born from that
yeah,
ethos, right? It's
yeah,
like, yeah, through the network effect, through the New Zealand culture and understanding the market that we are,
mm,
was why we formed. So yeah, I
yeah.
mean, good. It's impressive. After sometimes like 10, 12 hour days, I go home and I'm tired. My partner, she's also a solid, such a rock to the like foundation of my success as well. She's like prepared dinner and like made everything,
Mm.
made me feel comfortable. I come and just relax. This guy has to go home and then has to do all of the sometimes cooking and then dealing, taking care of a
The
baby
feeding,
and then
washing.
not even sleeping
Yeah,
properly for the rest of the night. Like,
yeah,
geez, like, man,
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
But
like,
it's yeah, but it's extremely joyful. It's extremely joyful because at the end of the day, it's you only remember the good things, right? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
so yeah,
It just is about, I mean, how contented are you end of the day? Like whatever you have
yeah,
done throughout.
100%.
Mm.
Totally. Now heading on for the next one, it's like a question to both of you. So I just wanted to understand, like we were just talking about Hanx AI. Now let's go deep into that. So, like, what led to the inception of your startup company, Hanx AI, and what were the technologies that you have used to integrate that with AI?
Literally, enterprise was too slow for us. We learned way too much very quickly. We tried to educate and do these services that we're currently doing for our agency within our organization. And this is not a complaint to any particular company. Uh, this is just the function of enterprise. When you're a massive company that deals with some thousands of individuals and hundreds of millions worth of dollar. There's bureaucracy and protection involved.
Board investors, it's a lot more,
It's a necessary must, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with the how fast generative AI was moving, it just wasn't the place to be testing these ideas that we had and fully like leveraging the tools and the power of it. And so that was simply it. It was just enterprise was too slow for us to do it internally. Yeah.
Yeah, and Derrick and I, we actually, so were really passionate. We both saw opportunity with ChatGPT when it got first released, like 2.5 years ago. And
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5 years ago, and we saw a massive opportunity. At that time, we actually weren't even we didn't really kind of know each other. So on our own accord, we started learning about these tools, started applying it wherever we can, and started running into each other in different events. And then we started talking to each other. Realized later that we're actually learning a lot from one another. And eventually got to a point where we were just getting together, talking about it, showing tips and tricks. And all of a sudden that learning curve, became geometrical,
Yeah.
and
Exponential, right?
yeah, and then essentially exponential. We then started sharing some of these learnings with some of our team members or colleagues, only then to realize that what we knew was far more advanced than people who were just starting. And it was at that point of time we sort of we thought, well, why don't we just translate that passion into something that we actually can make
a business out of it.
make a business out of it. And that's how the whole Harnex came about, right? Well, our key focus was we wanted other organizations to harness the power of generative AI.
Yeah.
And that's just pretty much how it came about. In terms of tools and
so many different tools.
Yeah.
We experiment with AI platforms and tools every day. If a new model gets released or a new tool seems to be something that we need to look into, we look into it, either in the free tier or whatever. If we look at the current tools that we're paying, that is just essentially making us super AI accelerated consultants. It would be number one, I would say, any sort of large language model, like Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini, right? Just a large language model is massive, and
sometimes Grok.
Yeah, maybe sometimes. Yeah, you learn how to prompt engineer, you learn how to get what you need, information in and out, so efficient. Then some sort of web searching tool that could be Perplexity, or even those three that I just told you all offer some sort of web searching feature. And then you get into code, and we talked about vibe coding, and there's AI code vibe coding tools like Cursor or Windsurf. Those are the top things that we recommend or play with ourselves.
Automation.
So yeah,
implementing Gumloop, for example, which is a bit of a more user friendly. Also working with N8N.
Yeah.
All these things.
There's you name it, and I'm not even talking about image generation, video generation, music generation, text to speech, text to voice. I'm not even talking about those. And we all have platforms that we play with on those as well. But those are for anyone writing it down or maybe even summarizing this with an AI agent themselves, just note it down. These are the ones.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, did it ever, occur to both of you that you would like to, integrate it with any kind of a low-code technology, or would you like to, adapt it to the DevOps methodology? So, is that a plan in the pipeline?
Oh, he's talking about. You know what? I don't want to give away our trade secret, but we're working on something. I don't want to broadcast that, but it's in the space that you're talking about. Yeah. It's there's a great power with generative AI, and we're looking in so many different ways. But yeah,
but the idea is also, using it as if you're your own customers, your own customers. So we're building it and using it ourselves as well.
Yeah, if this works internally, then we'll broadcast it and talk about it a bit more. But That's
Yeah. So-
yeah. Sorry, I'm not answering the question just because I want to keep it under wraps.
Derek, in my part of the world in India, whenever a movie is released, they release the teaser. So probably you've just given me a teaser of what you're trying
Yeah,
to do.
nice. Of course.
So okay, that's completely good. Now, if I would just like to ask both of you, like, what are the key areas that Harnex AI is completely focused on, and for the next coming years, what are your goals?
Ooh, if we look back to our mission, like what is our mission? Our mission is to help businesses harness the power of generative AI through education and mentoring. I think at its core, if we and our high level like vision of it is to be like an industry leader in this, like to essentially be the go-to AI agency because we believe that the McKinseys, the Deloittes, the KPMG, I'm talking big multi-billion-dollar dogs that right now they're too slow. They're doing surveys that are 6 months old, and a lot of these tools are coming out last week. And so we have this as a startup a real agility to be a truly AI accelerated augmented agency that could help businesses. And we literally preach what we practice. It's not a, oh, go do this, and then they never use it themselves, right? It's, we've used this extensively and it's got us this, so you should use it. And so as long as we stick to those core values, I think we're only going to grow more and more. We are thinking about like a product as well, like which we kind of like keep in a hush, because there's no point like communicating things when you haven't built it yet.
Yeah, it's
Or
too
we're
early.
validated that people want it,
Yeah.
so we'll do
Mhm.
that. But yeah, that's right now it's that. Yeah, what are your thoughts to it?
Not totally. I think it's, staying on the mission, and, staying true to our goals and objectives, right? And serving our customers.
Yeah.
I think what I really pride like ourselves with it is the fact that, if tomorrow you want to have, like a session with us, we talk about some technology, and let's just say a couple of days ago there was this recent cool thing that was
Yeah.
actually totally viable for the use case that you have.
Mhm.
We're on top of it.
Yep, you'll
Yeah.
know about it, and we'll be showing you how to do it. And that's and I think that's in this age, I think it's critical to be staying on top of things. And
Yeah.
these days, also when trying to keep up with the AI news is almost really it's almost like drinking like from a fire hydrant. So actually, we're reaching that phase where we actually have to be very particular about like what information.
Yeah, we have like AI agents and automation that like filters what's the most important thing and then like kind of alerts us and be like, yo, you should look at this for your
Mhm.
clients. And then we dive deep into that because there's no way we can drink
No.
from a fire hose, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like. Yeah.
That completely answers the point. Now, before we conclude our podcast session, let's take a pretty lighter route. We were just talking technical, we were just talking about your tenure. Now, we'll just talk about your likes and interests. Now, if I would just like to
Nice.
ask both of you, what is that tech book that you would like to, let's say refer to my listeners or suggest to my listeners?
So what do you mean by tech book, Uncle?
So a tech book can be anything, like a book based on technology, like which one, like a basic
Oh,
one to
what's a
start
book?
with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the book.
Oh, I would say it's a philosophy book. So it's not anything tech related.
Okay.
Um, but it is called What We Owe the Future
Hmm.
because it's a philosophy on like thinking about um, future generations that are so far beyond you that it almost like, like for example, if I ask you, do you care about your great, 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 great grandchild? Like, I'm asking you a question. Do you care? Like, I don't know, yes or no. Some people, maybe a lot of people say no. Like, why?
I
They're
would
so
say
far
maybe.
removed into the future, right? Like, why would I care? But like this book kind of really like makes you realize, wow, like you should care about the future generations that are about to come because
Mhm.
they're exponentially more infinite than like the lives that are lived today. And
Right.
which is why I also disagree with the whole like, oh, the population is too much and you should just like reduce it. And it's like your parents got together and created you, and every good thing and everything you experienced and the flow and effects that you've had in life are just so powerful. So like, how can you then like deny that future gift for other future generations with your selfish thinking? And this is very controversial, like what I just said, so but I'm putting myself out there
It
because
is sort of controversial,
I need
but
to be
anyway.
authentic, right? So I think this book really like kind of changed my mindset. And of course it doesn't apply if you're unsafe, if you're truly like in situations where you can't think about the future or can't think about kids. Obviously you don't apply to that, but if you're living a pretty comfortable life and you're like, oh, I don't want kids because I want to go to Bali and party and drink, then I think you're selfish.
Totally. So how about you, Mikhael? What's your suggestion towards a book?
Okay, I was well, tech book would be well, mm, for tech book would be nothing, because I think at the core it always starts with you. Like if you want to do any change, if you want to do something, it starts with you as an individual, right? I mean, I've never met somebody who said like, oh man, I read this great book about Python and I thought I'm going to change the like, yeah. But for me, the most favorite one, I would say, and I like it also because it's quite short and it's easy to read, is The Path of Siddhartha.
Oh, I know that.
Siddhartha.
Yeah,
I can never pronounce it. But the reason why I really liked it is because essentially the person like who's a key character of this book is like a monk or something that just chooses to move out of his village, move out of his comfort zone, and just try new things. And he doesn't necessarily follow a specific route. He just takes, you know, life. Well, he just accepts life for for what it is, and along the journey becomes so many things, right? Like, for example, he becomes like a ferryman, he becomes like a lawyer, he becomes like a shopkeeper. And there's just, yeah, it's just quite, for me, it was quite inspirational in a way. So, but the thing is, like, just take it with easy. Kind of like it was done with ease.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Sorry, not a tech book, but like books that we enjoy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a general
Yeah.
book. I think the question
Yeah.
should
I
be
mean,
phrased
tech
as a
books are
general book.
boring.
I love tech, but like reading a tech book sounds boring to me as well. Unless it's about AI, maybe I might read it.
Probably. Probably, Derek, if I come across any AI book, probably I'll be the first person to refer that to you. And I would say
Nice.
that, Derek, what's
I
your opinion on
appreciate
this?
it.
It's probably going to be written by AI.
Yeah, makes sense.
Totally, totally. And suppose, I would ask you this question. Suppose if I ever come to Auckland, like what is the go-to place that you would recommend me?
Oh,
Tanuki Cave.
what? Tanuki Cave. What is
Yeah,
that?
it's a secret speakeasy underground bar that
nice.
serves amazing cocktails.
I don't even know if I've been here my whole life. I would recommend this Vietnamese restaurant. It's a bit on the pricier end, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And on Parnell Rise, called Nim. Like, I think it's just the most authentic Southeast Asian food I've ever had. And it's rare to get that kind of like in New Zealand. So yeah.
Got it. Now, if
Well,
I
we
would just
probably
like
should have
to,
asked. We probably should have asked, what's your purpose of the visit? Is it fun
Yeah.
or business?
I would just say, just like a sightseeing kind of a thing, just going around just to travel kind of thing.
In New Zealand, or just specifically Auckland?
Auckland.
Ooh, sightseeing in Auckland.
Yeah, West Coast.
West Coast, yeah.
And West Coast sunsets.
Don't go too far into the Mercer Bay Loop, otherwise you might get mugged,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's those yarns or whatever, the things that happening. No, the west side, the Waitakere Range is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like if you want nature.
Yeah.
If you want like an indoor spot, what do you reckon is a good indoor spot in Auckland?
Indoor sport.
I'm like always surrounded by the city, so I cannot.
Tanuki Cave. Tanuki Cave on Thursday night because they got a jazz band playing there as well. Sometimes DJs. Yeah. And the owner is pretty cool.
You know what? You're really testing us, Uncle. We've been in our own hometown for like a while, and it's kind of like,
I'm getting a FOMO. What am I doing?
Am I even exploring my hometown?
Yeah. Mac is on Wairau. Great place.
Yeah, basically, like, it's just like I'm a tourist myself and I'm pretty new to New Zealand. So taking a recommendation from your end, would totally help me out. Yeah.
Mm.
Now, if I would just like to ask you, like, Derek, what's your favorite Indian food? And Mikhail, what's your favorite Indian food? What would that be?
Oh,
Oh, there you go.
I love a good South Indian biryani or a South Indian what's known as chicken rasam. It's just authentic. My mom has to make it. No restaurant can ever do
Mm.
it. So yeah, that or like dosa idli. I'm very South Indian for anyone that knows from that
Okay.
side. So yeah, that's a very just traditional South Indian dishes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I'm a South Indian by origin.
Nice,
By
nice. You know everything I'm talking about.
absolutely, totally can relate to that.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you?
I'm a man of simple tastes. I'll eat butter chicken for days. You know,
Only if it's spicy.
mildly spiced.
Okay,
Yeah.
what if it's non-Indian? What's your favorite?
If it's not, oh, I'll go with pasta.
Pasta.
Yeah. So I actually used
Pasta.
to be a chef, you know.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know this.
Man.
Really?
Yeah, I actually worked as a
Okay.
chef.
Yeah,
Like,
nice.
yeah, worked in the hospitality in the restaurant business during the high school and beginning of uni. And man, I just can go for pasta for days. That like
It's good, good. I
yeah,
saw you having pasta for lunch today.
exactly.
So.
See, yeah, stand by my word.
So,
Mm.
yeah.
All right. Okay. If now, what was the last film that you have watched? So what would the answer be?
How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World. It was at Disney, DreamWorks, not Disney.
DreamWorks. Yeah.
Yeah. I have you seen the How to Train Your Dragon series?
No,
Yeah,
no,
it's a kids movie.
I have. It's just my answer is going to be so polar opposite to yours. It's going to be like,
It's a kids movie. I loved it. I think the lore is epic. I loved it. I loved rewatching the series. So yeah.
Mm.
What about you?
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. Oh my God.
Yeah, just like completely different like
I just
spectrums.
yeah, I was falling asleep to that.
Is that some like horror movie?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hannibal. But I really like Anthony Hopkins as an actor. He's very soothing, you know, like
Soothing?
irrespective that he was like, yeah, his voice, like, and how he articulates himself. It's like I really like it. Similar to Morgan Freeman, man.
Enough to fall asleep, apparently.
Yeah. Well, you know, like there was like Our Planet series on Netflix as well, and it was like
Oh yeah,
like,
that's nice.
and it was narrated by Morgan Freeman. Oh man, I just it's like, you know, just, you know, he could be standing next to my bed with a knife, and I'd be like, no, Morgan, just keep going, man. Keep going. Yeah, just talk to me about Our Planet. So soothing, you know.
Yeah, you heard it first.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's pretty good. Now I would give you, three choices of a film franchise. Just select which one do you like the most. So first franchise happens to be Star Wars, then happens to be Harry Potter and James Bond. So which one would you like to choose out of them?
Harry Potter for sure.
James Bond.
I just feel like the James Bond films are like I'd rather watch a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible than a James Bond.
Yeah, too bad you're going to be watching it by yourself. There's a reason for that.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Well, because Ritisha doesn't
Oh
like,
yeah, she doesn't like Tom
Yeah, so
Cruise.
his
So yeah, my
partner-
partner.
yeah, she doesn't like Tom Cruise
So, yeah.
for various reasons. I don't
Why
know.
would you choose, Mikhail, why would you choose James Bond specifically?
I don't know. Well, let's just say not every James Bond, but I'm a real fan
The
of
Daniel
Daniel
Craig.
Craig. Yeah, it's
Daniel
just,
Craig.
you
He's
know,
got a macho, masculine, like down.
less
Show
talk,
guy.
more action. Shoot first, ask questions later. There's
That's
no,
so you.
there's just no nonsense. Straight to the fucking point. Yeah. Like I never understood those action movies where you're just standing in front of, the person who kind of just did something like horrible to like hundreds of people, maybe your family, and you like standing there like screaming at them like, why, how could you? Just like, who cares, man? Just shoot the guy maybe in the leg, let them, like kind of do something torture or something. I don't know, like whatever you're into. Just
They're
like,
getting a lot about your personality through this film.
yeah,
this film
just
breakdown
like
here.
if you want revenge, just make sure that they're gonna be at a disadvantage to fight back, because like you really want that. I mean, but that's because that's it. Given the situation, it's just like I would much rather,
Sorry, you can't explain yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, Derek and Mikhail, for taking time and being part of my podcast initiative. I mean, we have been planning for this session since like I think few months now, and finally the day has come. And it was such a great conversation. A lot of things. It was pretty candid, I would say, and I would say a
Nice.
lot of key takeaways which my listeners also would like to grab on from this session. And thank you so much again. And finally, I would just like to, convey an information that your AI agency, the Harnex AI, would be a super success in New Zealand and the world across. So I really wish you all the best for that.
Thank you. And
Thanks,
I
Mikhail.
wish you all the best
Yeah.
for your podcast journey, man. I know you're early. And it's a saturated market, but I think like you get something unique with what you're doing, and yeah, you go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Derek. So on this note, this is your host, Akhil Navluri, signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode with another eminent industry leader very soon. Till then, keep listening, stay tuned, take care, and goodbye, and au revoir. Thank you.